listening to The Bradshaw Boys, a podcast where three relatively grown men binge the iconic HBO series Sex and the City. So dust off those DVDs and grab yourself a white wine or even a Cosmopolitan and settle in. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to The Bradshaw Boys, a podcast where three guys watch Sex and the City for the first time ever, mostly. I'm Cory Cavin.
I am Kevin James Doyle.
Why are we so sad? I'm Jon Sieber.
We're not.
No,
this isn't sad.
This is determined and moving forward.
Have you ever
ready to dive in?
Have you ever been in the 26.1 mile of a marathon?
No.
You know, you're not.
No.
You're not in pain, but you're determined and you're like, oh my, it's almost over, but I'm so happy, but I'm, you get
For those of you
too.
listening that have watched Sex and the City all the way through four times, 5 times, that is equivalent as to running 5 marathons. So well done. Nice job.
Done.
And then you get to the end of the marathon, which is Sex and the City 2. And then you just you finish your marathon and then you just fall into a vat of
Sex and the City 2 is that piece of tinfoil that they drape around you that you have to walk around the city wearing.
the space blanket?
Yeah, thinking you look awesome, but everyone's like, oh my gosh, cool. You ran the marathon, but you look like a douchebag.
I'm always so amazed at how so many people are like, are you going to do the movies? And yeah, I mean, we're going to do the movies before the end of the year.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Do you think we'll talk about this podcast after we finish the movies? Will we talk about it as long as some people continue to wear their marathon medals for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Have you ever just seen someone wearing their medal? Have you ever seen someone wearing their marathon medal around days after it's over?
Well,
not days. I've seen someone wear it.
The Monday after.
I've seen people wear it weeks after.
Now wait, can I say this? I ran the New York City Marathon this year because if you did it digitally, you just had to turn in the fact that you did it. So technically, I ran the New York City Marathon this year, and it was the least satisfying thing I've ever done because there's no. It's a digital one. There was no one cheering. It was.
Yeah, you ran it with you ran more than that. How many did you run? 35 miles?
I ran 35 miles, but I want to say this. One of the biggest disappointments of the COVID year is not having the New York City Marathon even to participate in a spectator.
Could you imagine if they did New York? Did they mention New York City Marathon ever in Sex and the City? I feel like someone was training for a race. Marathon man,
Kristen Davis, Charlotte is training.
She's just running, but I think Miranda hooks up with the marathon man.
Miranda
because he's the true stink daddy. He's the true stink daddy.
Yeah, he's stink daddy original.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, if someone gave me a medal for doing this podcast, I would wear it all the time.
Like, what's that for? It's like watching a very entertaining, well-written show
with my friends and talking about it.
That's a different thing. I would applaud that. To be clear,
we could make medals.
Anyone that runs a marathon, it's an amazing feat. I totally agree.
It is.
I'm not going against that at all.
Cory, I need to give you a little homework. Okay.
Run a marathon.
Run a marathon before you start running your mouth.
Okay. So shut
run
up
a marathon
and go
before you talk to Kevin again.
No. That's true. I could not do it.
You're gonna have to come up with the new Welcome to the Bradshaw Boys podcast where 3 guys watch it for the second time ever. Mostly, it shouldn't be that. It's got to be something with a new, but you got to feel comfortable with it.
I know.
Not. That's why it's homework. It's not something to do here. You just in the shower, come up with a few new things to riff on and see how it goes.
It's going to be people that are like, I live in New York and I saw one of the Bradshaw Boys walking around New York mumbling to himself.
For the first time ever, for the second time, all the way through
science,
for the rewatching, for the
completely.
What do you guys think? Do you think? What do you think happens to the Russian? Because we know we kind of know that, like.
You talking about Petrovsky?
I was talking about Vladimir Putin. This is a political podcast now. No,
Putin pals. Where we talk about Russia.
Yeah. No, I wonder. I was just wondering what happens to him, because I know that she doesn't end up with him. And then I got to thinking, but I don't know what happens at the end of the show. So it's not a spoiler because it's like, I know she ends up with Big.
Right.
But in a way, it's like, oh, but then what happens to these other people? I also don't know what happens to, I think I know what happens to Charlotte, but not really. Like, I don't know how it happens. And so I was just wondering what you guys think. Do you think he stays in Paris? Do you think he goes back to Russia? Do you think he's heartbroken? Do you think she sees him with like another girl?
I feel like she's going to have some sort of like emotional, I can't take it anymore kind of thing. And then I think he'll just be upset, but he's also like, that is what happens, you know? That was more French than Russian. But yeah, I think he's just going to be like, that's what happens in relationships.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think so. Do you think that some of the episode in Paris is going to be her lamenting her loss with the Russian, and then Big's going to swoop in, or are they going to kind of like just not really have her be single post Russian, because it's going to be like, I'm depressed, and then Big's immediately there, and then happily ever after?
Well, I think that because this is, I mean, good writing, there's a quote that's like, a good screenplay is surprising yet inevitable. And I feel like this is going to be like the dream come true, and she's going to get there, and everything in her life, I think, is going to be as good as she would expect it, yet she's not happy, you know, like, and I think that would be kind of satisfying, that it's like, and then I don't know what happens to the Russian. I feel like it's going to be a handshake. Maybe now Big is going to show up in Paris. He's got to.
I hope they just flex the fact that he's a Baryshnikov's a ballet dancer, and he just completely breaks character and just like ballet dances,
pirouettes
off, and does some like insane dancing, and Carrie just kind of scratches her head and then moves on.
What if they like kind of have a like hard conversation? He looks down, and then all of a sudden he looks up, and like Swan Lake starts playing, and then he just goes into full dance, and then he just goes off down the Champs-Elysees. But the whole thing takes like 7 minutes.
Yeah,
that's just keeps going.
And that's just how that's how the series just ends.
She's like, he's quiet, and she's like, "How are you feeling?" And then he's just like, bum 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 bum.
Except it's the Sex and the City music. Bum 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 bum. He does a little
oh my
ballet to it.
Dude. Yeah, I
for
mean,
those of you watching the YouTube video, there's Katie's like doing work in the background, laughing.
Katie's just sitting there in the background.
Stupid we are.
Also, Katie, she leaned into the shot, and no joke, I was like, I got freaked out.
John, there's a ghost.
I was like, who the fuck's in my room? Oh man, it is. It's cool getting to know all of these things, because it'll be interesting to like. You know how like at the beginning of your life, your memories are like more crisp or whatever, and then the longer life goes on, then like I don't know,
vivid, or?
Yeah, vivid, or like, you know, you think about the 4 years of high school, those memories are like way more intense than what happened like 6 years ago. You may and so it's like we spent so much time talking about Skipper that it's funny that it's like Baryshnikov, the Russian, has been a way more seminal part of the show and way more important and more episodes. But there's something about like the memories of the first season guys that are like,
yeah, I mean, and we did an interview with Ben Weber in a real estate office in California. So, and the people, dude, remember? We have to do we have to not care about how long it is. We can put it into 2. We just have to go through and our final episode after it's done, that it's like just for the fans, you know, that just like, and just go through all the memories of all the weird shit that has gone on this podcast. Like, because that's one of the craziest things.
We talked about it last time of having legit important people just sit in Jeremy's room and watch an episode of Sex and the City with us.
But listen, I don't know if you guys heard the news, but by the time Pfizer is starting to start pilot programs for vaccinations in 4 states. So by the time we finish the second movie, there could very well be the beginning of the vaccination process, which would mean we're looking at like live shows in March or April. That's what I think. Which would,
dude, nothing would make 2021 better than to have some live Bradshaw Boys shows. A couple cocktails, couple laughs.
When we started this, it's like, man, this is going to be a crazy journey. And then it's like, if you could just see like ahead, that people are like, get ready, because when you're watching season 6, things are going to get nuts. And you're like in the show, they're like, no, in the fucking world, it's going to be fucking nuts.
That reminds me, so Kevin, for those of you who don't know, Kevin and I spend New Year's together. We have for the last 9 years.
Yeah.
And Kevin, I love it. Some other people roll their eyes and groan, but he always asks what the rose and thorn is of the year. And so I would love it if we could think about what our rose and thorn is of the Bradshaw Boys.
Oh,
we don't have to share it on this one, but maybe the last one we could all share what our rose and thorn of specifically recording this podcast has been. Or if you have something now, I'd love to hear it. But
I think we should do it now because maybe we'll think more about stuff, but this is the beginning of the finale. You know what I mean? It's not the last, even though this is technically a 2-parter, so it is the last episode, just split into 2 parts. So, well, I have one.
Mm-hmm.
My rose, I think, has been becoming closer with you, John, because Cory and I were like, Cory and I, when we announced this podcast, we were on stage like at our comedy show that was like very fun. It was a very like cool New York comedy show that was like pretty like successful as far as free bar comedy shows go. Like it was a great, and me and Cory were like, our next steps together, we're going to be doing this. And people were just like,
what?
Like we thought people were going to be like, do the podcast.
Oh, no one cared.
But Cory and I had already like been on a creative journey together doing that. And it was really fun to do that. And then getting to know, we were already friends before this, but it's like, it's been great getting to know you and Katie more. And then all 3 of our dynamic is like its own new friendship.
Yeah.
And I would say that the thorn has been, and this is something I've been thinking a lot about in life, has been like the nervous buildup towards big moments of like talking to Sarah Jessica Parker or wanting something to go right and then realizing like it happens and then that was the experience. And you're like, oh, I got to enjoy that. And I think going along with that, the Kirkman interview, she was, we're fans of her comedy. That was like this perfect nexus of like no nerves, pure party, pure magic. And I was like, oh, the SJP interview, the Kristen Davis interview, a lot of those were like just nerves before, during, and after. And then it's like a week later that you're like, we just achieved everything we wanted to with the podcast. How come it didn't feel as good? And so I guess the thorn was like just realizing like everything's going to be fine.
That's great.
John,
Cory,
do you have any, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, I've been so definitely my rose for sure was it's interesting because my rose and thorn go together. I'm going to be braiding a rose here, and it was just living in New York during the pandemic and like figuring out specifically with this podcast, like not doing it in person. Like I think there is like a certain magnetism and electricity that I really loved and look forward to when we were able to record in person and like get some drinks and just like really hang out beforehand, record, and then hang out a little bit afterwards. And it was just like I think it was a little bit more electric, at least than like the first couple digital recordings we did. But with that, the episode that we were able to put together for Meg was like one of the most special things that I've been a part of. And it didn't really even have to do anything with what I did or what we did, but the gracious support from all the people that were involved in the show, and knowing that, we were able to help collect voicemails and messages and words of encouragement from these truly incredible, important, busy people who took time out of their lives to care for Meg, the frontline worker who was literally the bulwark staring down the ugliness of this disease. And she, just knowing that she smiled walking across that park was something that was really moving and touching to me. And being able to play a very small part in bringing that to her, and kind of our love letter to New York City was really special.
Yeah. That was really good, John. I would say mine are one of the same. Tortilla Flats episode, Rose and Thorn, both of them. When we went live to Tortilla Flats, it was a rose because I love Tortilla Flats, but it was raining because of Thorns. That was no, I'm just kidding. I think that one was really fun, actually. That was I really do feel like if you haven't listened to our Tortilla Flats episode, it's nothing like the rest of the podcast, but I would say it's underrated.
That was our boots on the ground initiative.
Boots on the ground.
If you haven't listened to our Tortilla Flats episode, you're probably listening to this podcast because it has the least listens of any episode we did, and we put the most work into it. Okay,
we put so much work into it, and
boots on the ground initiative.
Legitimately enjoyed it. You know what it made me think of, though, was the Meg episode, because the Meg episode, I feel like, is the boots on the ground episode come to life. Yeah, where we actually did some real producing with it. But no, I think I don't know. I say this like well, I'll do the Thorn first. The Thorn would be kind of what Kevin said. The stress of things. I specifically thought of trying to get Willie Garson to find 6 different pairs of headphones while we're on Zoom. Just being like, I'm sorry, is there any way you could, sorry. But it's not really the technical stress, because like we've talked about this, we all deal with that. And I feel like I deal with that like on a daily basis, just in my day jobs, and I'm like used to production stress. But I think it's more the thorn for me would be the stress of production stuff, but also just like life stress stuff. Like I think that because of pandemic, and I think because of our personal lives, like we've all had pretty stressful stuff happen over the course of doing this. Like nothing like earth shattering, but like we've all had pretty big life events. And I remember there were like certain times where we were recording the podcast and I would like catch myself, being like, oh, wait a second, like pay attention. We're doing this thing.
Yeah.
And later I would, in hindsight, you're bummed because you're like, those are really good freaking times. And like, I missed out on things because of stress about that or stress about this, I don't think anyone could ever tell because they listen to the podcast.
Because the banter's so good and the rhythm's so good. Like, you guys would never know. We're professionals.
You're checked out. What? But no, that would be the stress, is like when you get past everything, you're like, why was I mad about that?
Yeah.
It was so stupid, And like, I think the rose would be that I think about this with all like big creative project things like this, is that over the course of it, getting to know both of you, but also Katie and Jeremy and all the people we've gotten to know, and like just having all the experiences, I think it's been like this whole like overarching thing where John and I were talking about doing the podcast today, and we're like, if we could have seen then like where we're at now, it's still a thing where it's like, okay, we can do the podcast Monday. All right, cool. See you guys at 7. But we've gotten to do so many things and meet so many people, and have gotten so much closer to both of you through doing it. Like I think we've gotten, even though Kevin and I did a lot of stuff before, I think we're like friends in a different way.
Yeah.
And I'm so much closer to you and Katie, John, and like, John, you and I feel like the night that we all had that crazy night out, you and I were hanging out specifically to like become even better friends then. And it's gone so much since then. So it would be just kind of like the overarching like deepening of all that through this, and all the people that we've met.
Those are all very sweet. I love to read. I think you guys all love to read to some capacity too. But one of my favorite things is the bittersweetness of reading a book that you love, and you get to the end and you have to turn that last page. And unfortunately, we are at the end, and I think it's time to turn that last page and start the last episode here. Cory, what do you?
Before we get into it, and I'm saying this because what you just said reminds me of this. And I said this on our very first episode. And I'm saying it now because we are at the beginning of the end.
I really hope you go into a candy rant right now.
Rips are the best candy.
Listen, you get home, you know it's going to mess up your tongue, but you got to get some rips. No, we said on the first episode, I had a good friend in college who I'm still in touch with, who he got in touch with me when I was about to start watching The Wire TV show. And he was like, I wish that I could grab you by the collar like a freshman about to go to college and just say, you don't realize what you're about to embark on because you'll never get to do it again for the first time. And that was about The Wire. But like, this is the thing where like, we're about to go into a thing where we're about to see the whole show forever.
Yeah.
And we can't go back.
And we're about to we're all grabbing each other digitally by the collar right now.
By the ones and by the zeros.
We're grabbing you by the collar, listener. You might not be there with us. You may have seen it 11 times, but ready? We are about to go watch the series finale of Sex and the City Part 1 for the first time ever right now. And it'll be the last time it'll ever be the first time.
An American Girl in Paris, Part 1.
Episode 93. An American Girl in Paris, Part 1. Before joining Alexander in Paris, Carrie has one last dinner in New York with Samantha, Charlotte, and Miranda. However, life in the City of Light doesn't live up to her expectations. After being told off by Carrie before dinner, Big goes to the girls for advice, and they tell him to go to Paris and go get their girl. And now, back to the boys.
Il fait chaud. Un, deux, trois. Un, deux, trois. Monsieur Bonjour. When I come to Eiffel Tower, is a moment of show. Wait, are you singing the French rap song? What are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing the hook for the French rap song, and you were doing the rap. You're the rapper.
For a second, I was like, "Are we doing two separate bits?" We got to get on.
You did it 100% right.
Dude, I will say
you did a solid yes and right there.
Yeah, that was a solid yes and right there.
That was a yes and then a yes and. Wait, hold on. I've never done improv.
That's the best thing. I did that in an improv class one time where I did a joke like that, and then I was like, "Did I do the right thing?" And someone was like, "Doesn't count now. Doesn't count. Gotta know what you're doing."
Yes. Wait.
Wait. Correct.
I will say, Cory and I have been to Paris together, and we did like look up famous, we looked up some rapper who was like the Notorious B.I.G. of France, and we like listened to his music over there, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of a tough transition when you're used to listening to the Notorious B.I.G. of America. We live in Brooklyn. We listen to Notorious B.I.G. We're like, yes, I know that street, and in Paris, we're like, not so much.
Yeah, it's like kind of like getting croissants at Wawa and being like, oh, cool. All right. Not really a croissant.
Oh yeah. Wait till you guys have these baguettes at Panera. I mean, it's a bread emporium. You can get what you can get a bagel, you can get a baguette, you can do they give you an apple with your sandwich. Excuse me, what are you talking about?
Hey, sorry, man. My bad. I meant to tell you to go to Aubon Pen. Aubon Pen. That's the place. That's the one. It's got a French name, too.
Let me just say this straight up. Paris has the absolute, no question, no holds barred, fucking hottest 45 to 65-year-old women anywhere in the world. I walked past so many, 58-year-old women that were just the most attractive, stylish. I was just like, I wanted to marry every woman I saw. Now, lots of people that are attractive, but I just thought their older women were just like so elegant and so sexy and fashionable. Yeah. Sorry, I'm reliving actual life, not the episode.
I would agree with that. And I would also agree that there's a lot of old French men that just look like old French men. They don't, but listen, that's not my thing. Like some people might be like, and that is super sexy. But I would agree with what you're saying, Kevin. I mean, I think there's a whole thing about you have to agree with that. No, there's a whole thing where it's like the French, the Parisians, they get that. They know how to look stylish, sexy.
All right, let's talk about the episode here.
Let's do this. We have plenty to talk about. Let's get into it because I feel like there is lots of
there's
New York
tons to talk
and Paris and Carrie Bradshaw. Yeah, and Carrie Bradshaw, where she fits in that. So we got to cover that shit.
Yeah,
all right.
This one was interesting because there wasn't really this. This had to be the only episode where there wasn't a I couldn't help but wonder through line where she's writing.
Wow,
and it's because her laptop's on the bed. She can't use it. It's back in New York.
Wow. Yep.
She lost two parts of her Carrie necklace and her laptop. So is she really Carrie? I don't know. But this also didn't have a storyline for every person. Charlotte's storyline is that they're going to be trying to adopt a baby, and it's been proven tougher than she originally thought. Miranda really didn't have a storyline other than she doesn't really want Carrie to go. But Samantha had a storyline in that she was giving a motivational speech at a breast cancer benefit, and she had hot flashes in the middle of it, and brings on the house when she just gets real, stops pretending and just gets real.
Yeah.
And then the main storyline, the main series line is that Carrie is in Paris with Petrovsky, and she told Big never to ever call her again and never forget that she exists, forget her number. So she's in Paris. Petrovsky's busier than thought, and she's a little bit lonely, and also fell in the Dior store. So where do you want to start?
Let's start with Samantha.
Great.
Okay. All right. Fine. Let's start with Samantha.
I'll go first because since my mom's a breast cancer survivor, I will say this. I think we've talked about it on the podcast, but my parents' air conditioning bills went from like $100 a month to like $700 a month from my mom's breast cancer medication. And my dad would just like talk about the air conditioning bill all the time. He's like, how much is this gonna be? And it's like, he would just always complain. He's like, it's so cold in here. Walk around with his coat.
That's such a great dad thing, though, to take out his frustration and sadness about breast cancer on something tangible like an air conditioning bill.
Yes, exactly. It was like, if you were like, like the emotional part was like too hard to deal with. So he was just like, here's a number I'm mad at. I thought this was like very predictable and very good. Like it's cool. Like, because it was predictable that she'd be like, oh, fuck this. Like, I'm going to be myself. Like, that's going to happen. But all the women standing up and taking their wigs off, like that definitely, I was like, oh, okay, of course Samantha like is going to get the like special moment. She's herself. And then when the first woman stood up and took her wig off, I was just like, oh man, like it definitely got me.
Dude,
how much do you think then in the writer's room that someone was just like, Samantha, breast cancer, but Dead Poet Society. It was Dead Poet Society.
It's totally 100%. Dead Poet Society.
I will say
there was Captain, my Captain, and then she took off her wig.
Great scene where the woman leans over and it's like, I asked for inspiration, not perspiration. And then her friend took a bite out of the pink ribbon cookie.
Yes,
did you guys notice that?
I know.
Out of the pink ribbon cookie. I was like,
good stuff.
Yes.
That was great.
I know. And then they just glob on at the end and act like they were inspired. Dude, that's what you need anytime you go to a benefit. You can't try too hard. You got to just be real. You got to entertain people, and then you got to. We've hosted events like this, and people come up to us.
People are there listening to way too many pre-written speeches with facts and figures, and like, you know what? They're all for great causes, but there's a lot of people up there drumming up a lot of pre-written heartfelt emotion, and you just gotta go up there and be the real person.
Nothing brings greater cheer to a benefit dealing with trafficked women than talking about jerking off in Howard Schultz's coffee. It's just simple formula.
Dude,
that's right.
The one of the joys of my comedic life is like standing on the side stage when Cory and I do our benefit for human trafficking, and then like John Early goes on stage and literally, or some comedian is talking about like just being on Grindr or something, and all these people that it's just like, but it's like it is it is funny going to those, like, that's kind of what a lot of rich people's lives are, just going to benefits, just paying $500 to go to a thing. And then everyone's just like, and there's so much sadness in the world just because you go to those things. Literally, you need people like Samantha Jones that are going to be like, yeah, it sucks to have cancer. Also, here's what I'm actually feeling.
Yeah.
Here's
100%.
like what the reality is, because it's like not saying that doesn't make it any less true. Like, I don't know. She's a person that always uses humor, always uses like cutting through the bullshit to get closer to like what is really going on. And I think like that was and it was cool that Smith was there with his shaved head too, which I thought like her hair was similar to Smith's.
Yeah.
I thought there was like a tie together there, because some people had completely buzzed heads.
Yeah.
But it was like she was like finally with her mate, and he supported her in being herself.
Well, I feel like we talked about this last time, but like we've just been getting some good Smith vibes and just being like, Smith is just like hanging now. And it was so funny
fucking on camera and just hanging.
Just hanging. But when he was just like, could be better. And then like, I was just like, dude, but he was so right. But and I think they used the AA tie-in like a smart way.
Totally.
Where he's just like, hey, listen, the like best people are just the most real people. And in doing that, he brought out the best of Samantha, because that's the best part about her. And it's like when she's like, I know PR, like that's not what's great about her. What's great about her is herself. Also, in the scene where she's rehearsing her speech in front of him, dude, how, in Kevin's words, stacked is Kim Cattrall? Did you see how in shape she was?
She's in very good shape.
I did this video for a friend like a couple weeks ago. We shot this music video, and I was looking at a cut of it today, and I was like, Kim Cattrall is, I believe, older than I am in that show, and she looks 15 times better than I do on camera. I was just like, how hard is it to be on camera for
15 is a generous number too, Corey. No, I'm just kidding.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's 30.
And
but it's like, how hard is it to be on that show for that many years and be in incredible shape, and like also not be like a 25-year-old person?
Yeah.
She was in like amazing shape.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a dangerous game to play though, if you're just going literally like like just comparing yourself to like one of the greatest TV stars and nude icons of our age, and just be like, I'm this age and she's that age. It's like,
listen, you guys know that in our Coffee Talk episode, I wake up, I grind my beans, I make a pour over, and I look through magazines of beautiful models and compare myself. Yeah. That's my morning routine. I do that every day, and then I shame myself.
And I encourage that. So after seeing Samantha give her 5 minutes of comedy up on the stage, you guys hosted a legendary comedy show. Would you guys give her 5 at the comedy show?
Yeah. I would let her give the speech. This is the thing. When you're set up to make people laugh, it's one thing. If she came out and said it's time for stand-up, it'd be tough.
Yeah.
But that's why it's great to be like a lead singer of a band, just in between songs, be like, where are we again? Minneapolis? And people exactly. It's like, oh, cool. Good joke, fucking idiot.
Hey man, after this, you guys want to really go to the Mall of America? Oh, he knows that we have one.
This place is pretty crazy. I was at a coffee shop earlier. Do you guys know Smokey Joe's? And people are like, we know Smokey Joe's.
Mary Tyler, give me some more weed.
Yeah.
Right? She's from no, is that one who's from Minneapolis? Mary Tyler Moore? Anyway.
Oh, I don't know. I like Mary Tyler Moore though.
Isn't she the one who throws her hat up in the air, right?
She does, and she was hot.
That takes place in Minneapolis.
And she was older.
After all,
she was a hoarder?
No, she was hot. She was a hot older woman.
She was a hot older woman.
I thought you said she was a hoarder. I was like,
she's a hoarder.
She kept newspapers for like for years.
Hey, more like Mary Tyler Moore stuff in my apartment, right? Okay, this next one's go.
I think keep it after all in my room. Okay.
No, she would get, to answer your question, John, Kevin's right. She would be the person that goes out to make the speech, and afterward people are like, have you thought of doing comedy? Because your speech was so funny.
Yeah.
As opposed to someone who goes up and has like a 5-minute set
and
on
then,
something.
And then she'd be like, no, I haven't thought of doing it because it's a fucking dumb career. I'm in
It's
PR.
a horrible career. I make $500,000.
He's like, because I'm not a pathetic loser. Okay.
Because I want to have nice shit. I don't want to live in a shitty apartment and have my bike get stolen.
Because I don't want my boyfriend to look at me and dump me and be like, "Ugh, why are you being a comedian, you fucking loser?" Smith just is like, "Oh, disgusting.
Get out of here."
It happens in the first movie. She goes and starts a comedy career, and Smith just bails on her right away.
Smith bails on her at her first open mic.
Just Smith goes and hooks up with Richard at a hotel party.
Oh man.
Okay, so I took some notes. Carrie's in Paris, and very first thing she sees when she's in Paris. First of all, we're gonna point out the fashion. She's wearing this striped dress with the huge she got flower.
Yep.
What's the dress called?
I'll look it up. It's it is like the iconic French sailor shirt, which you have a nice one of those, Kevin.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Kevin took out his headphones. I was like, is he just leaving the podcast?
How many people predicted?
There it is.
How many people predicted when they knew that there was going to be the last episode of Carrie in Paris that the majority of it would be just horrible Parisian accents, French accents, and I was being idiots.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I just love French people, and I love how easy they are to make fun of, and also how ultimately it's because like you never spend that much time making fun of people unless you like really are like, fuck, you're cool. Like it's just so like on one hand you're just like, oh, French people are like, oh, look at me with espresso, blah blah, and then you're just like, wow, you guys really. If you didn't want to be that, you would just ignore it completely as a country. But you know, but yeah, I mean, I love all the dumb accents. Corey's the only one here that speaks French, kind of. Corey, go for it.
Steve talked in French.
Yes. Let's do it right now. Steve talking French.
That is so hard. You have to. The theme song has to be played on an accordion, like. Bonjour, Mademoiselle Miranda. Oui, je m'appelle Steve. Je jouais à basketball. Oui, je mange whatever I want. Okay, because I'm hungry. Et where's Brady? Brady est mon petit enfant. Mes petits enfants Brady. Les cheveux rouges on Brady. I just said his hair is red.
That's pretty good.
Hey, can we go to the Eiffel Tower now? I've lost my real Steve voice from doing the French voice.
That's so funny. When she gets in Paris, the first thing she sees is Petrovsky with her arm around another woman. Dun, dun, dun. How many of you thought that from right there that Petrovsky was two-timing her?
I actually did.
You did?
Oh, yeah. I walked right into that trap because we didn't know if his kid was a girl or a guy.
Right.
I thought he said daughter. He showed Carrie a picture.
I didn't remember.
I did think it was funny. For those of you that follow us on Instagram, Kevin answered the question of what we're going to do next after this series is over, and he said we're going to do ritual seppuku, which is Japanese honor suicide. And the very first thing Chloe shared is that she wanted to commit suicide because she was so bored. So you and Chloe, Petrovsky's daughter, have. You both tend to be a little bit dramatic, Kevin.
Yeah. Me, John, and Corey. The second we're done with the second movie on the Patreon, we're gonna have on Petrovsky's daughter, who played that actress on the Patreon.
She's gonna bring out a ceremonial blade in a kimono.
Yeah.
But here's the thing:
I'm gonna drink Drano.
Oh no, you got it. No, you got drinking Drano would be the worst way to die on a podcast.
Especially because it'd be like, yeah. I was
gonna say, if you're a $25 Patreon subscriber, you get to watch a live video of it. We invite you to a Zoom.
Oh man.
Oh, it's so terrible. People are like, we made it to the end of the podcast and this is what we get?
This is awful.
Come on.
Man.
Awful.
Yeah.
They were just talking about their rose and thorn. Best thing that happened. And now they're doing a ritual honor suicide.
The best part, I would say, was watching the show. The worst part was when we killed ourselves at the end. Because
was watching Kevin's intestines spill out of his stomach.
on the Zoom. And then it froze. It was very awkward. It was very sad way to die. Okay, no. The French are very dramatic people. So I think they're playing into the tropes, I think, a little bit. But in a way that rings true and also true to what it is like to go over there. Like when I went over there with Cory, once he was gone, like there was one night that it's like I had the night to myself, and then there is like a thing that you're like, okay, you can go to a museum, and at the end of the day, you're like, you want to be with your friends, you want to be with your people, you want your life to share those things with. Or else, and people feel that when they do solo trips to New York, like anywhere that would be true.
Yes.
But especially in a place that is so revered and like the city of love and walking around and all the movies and all the things. Like Carrie Bradshaw is the perfect victim for this mentality to go in and like write an entire story and then realize like life is different than life isn't a movie.
Totally.
Well,
and Petrovsky's... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, well, two things. One, when she walks out onto her balcony and sees the Eiffel Tower, there was a thing in me that had thought about the trip that you and I were there on where when that happened, I was like, because we actually kind of stayed close to that area. And when that happened, I was like, it really is like that. Like there is a thing where Paris is this city. New York is too, but Paris is this city where you're just like, good Lord. I mean, it's like beautiful and old and like looks amazing. But it also made me think about, I went on a writing retreat a couple of years ago by myself and was like, all right, I'm going to go finish this script. And do you remember this? Like,
you like called
3
me
hours
like three times.
3 hours into the first day, I was like at a bar by myself having a drink. I was like, what's up, man? You were like, hey. And I was like, I don't know, man. It's like pretty lonely up here. And you're like, well, why'd you drive to Hudson, New York by yourself to go finish a thing? Like you put yourself in this position. So like, come on.
I defend myself. I don't think I was like, you deserve it, you fucking loser.
You didn't. I was actually about to. You were actually very nice and supportive. But like when she said that, I was like, the map is different than the trip.
Dude, how fucking sick would it have been if I just pulled up to the bar you in a limo and just like, I was your Mr. Big and I just roll the window down and you're just like, Kevin? I'm like, hey, babe, let's get a drink.
Get in. And Kevin's like,
I spent all that money on this limo though. So can you pick up the bill? I'm broke. I thought I spent too much money on this limo.
Don't forget to tip Raul.
Yeah, don't forget to tip Raul. And like John said, make him just wait.
But like, my question about Carrie is that had to be poor planning on her. I mean, like, I get that she was enchanted by Paris, but that's hard because she is joining someone's life that is not vacation. Petrovsky is there to live his life, to work, and in a particularly busy and tumultuous time, and that he's opening up a new show. Granted, I think he should have invited her to the dinner. Like if he's like the guest of honor and he's like, my girlfriend's in town, I'm pretty sure that's an easy ask, and not just leave her alone in her hotel room by herself. But she also had to do some math where it's like, I am leaving my country, my friends, my work to come live with this person. I'm going to be on this pseudo vacation, but he is going to be living his active life. And that's going to be lonely for me.
Well, from a perspective, it's written really well because right now there are at least two, let's see if there's any more, but there are at least two times where it is all just based on her perspective, because he went to the meeting, but then it's revealed, she's like, why did I get left? But it's because her phone was on Do Not Disturb. So she's processing it this one way. And he's like, I called you to meet up with the thing. So it maybe he was going to invite her to the music, like the first part's a meeting, and then it turned into a big party or whatever.
Yeah.
But those are two things where it's her being like, oh, this is how it's going to be. Oh no. and he's like, hey, this is my daughter. I'm excited to share this time with you. I wanted you to come to my museum thing. So it's almost like her not obliviousness, but like she's processing things in a way that are just maybe her expectations are a little too high and not realistic. And then you're also like, there have been times where I've been like, man, how come like I'm not working enough? And then I'm like moping around, and then I find out like I'm literally currently like not responding to an email where I'm like, oh shit, I forgot someone offered me a job. And so I feel like she's in that right now. She's just in her head, partially because she's not being present because she doesn't want to be there. And she knows that it's not the right thing, even though she can't admit it to herself.
That's what I was going to ask, if it's revealing a thing going on inside her that's like, oh, this is bringing up it's subconsciously bringing up the doubts that I had, and just being like, oh shoot, oh, does that mean this isn't right? It's like she's trying to confirm things with like.
Well, she said she asked Miranda not to hold it against her, but she's also starting to replay memories of Big in her mind. And she said that she does that when she's in relationships and she's getting lonely and frustrated, and she's got Big pulling on her heartstrings.
She's got big brain. Big brain. Hey, let me ask you, John, from a Carrie moment or a Carrie question. Do you think that was a good move to just say to Miranda, like, hey, listen, I'm going to be fully honest. Can I just tell you something? And then you can hold it against me later. Do you think that was good for her to just get that out as like a venting thing?
Well, I know that it was. I think
she
asked Miranda not to hold it against her later. She's like, I'm going to tell you something that I'm struggling with this in this emotional space right now, and I know you, Miranda, don't approve of Petrovsky. So later, when things are good of Petrovsky, you can't bring this up again and be like, no, you called me like 2 weeks in and said that you missed Big. Like I need you to just listen to this now and then almost forget about it when and if things get better. And so she's, so sorry, what was your question?
Oh, no, I mean, you might have just answered it. My question was that a good move for Carrie? Because I know that like you have to call friends to vent to them sometimes, but maybe
totally. I think it was
selfish vent.
No, I think it was. Well, I thought I was a little like I thought it was a little funny. I mean that she like called Miranda while Miranda was like getting busy in the morning with like a crying baby, and Carrie's like, I want to talk about my necklace, but I think that's important, and it's metaphorical symbolism about her losing parts of herself. But I think it was necessary for her to call Miranda and like put it out there and at least say what she's thinking to someone that she can trust and someone that's not going to judge her. So like, if you needed to do that to someone, I would definitely encourage that. Be like, call, share what you're thinking, say like, I know I might change later, but I have to get this off my chest. This is what I'm thinking right now.
Yeah. I was going to say real quick, because I know there's so many things to cover, but I think it would be interesting to talk about Mr. Big and where he is and the thing of him meeting up with the girls and the Charlotte answering the phone call.
The Big and Chew? The Big League Chew?
The Big League Chew.
It was the Big League Chew. It was so great.
Put a big glob of that in your mouth when you're a kid.
I know it's going to lose it. I know it's going to lose its flavor, kid, but I keep going back.
Yeah.
Got to keep chewing it.
Dude, no, I was a huge fan of the Big League Chew. I like that he called, put himself out there, that Charlotte answered the call, and then that they all met up and sat down. And he was like, listen, I know I've been the villain. I know I haven't been worthy of being with this person, and I've dropped the ball throughout the years, but I do love her. And I think like he won them all over. He listened to some Spice Girls, and he knew what he had to do to get Carrie.
Listen, almost any person is in those things. It'd be one thing if he was currently still like married or something like that. But it's like there was an earnestness to like when he came and talked to her, or when she was like, hey, get out of here. Cause that was the same move he always did. And this definitely, like, we've been on this journey with him this whole time. And you can totally tell that it's like, this is different than just like, if he even sat down and waffled one moment, that's where your friends step in and you're like, you know what? Fuck you on behalf of our friend. If he was just like, and I don't know what I want to do, but like, can I just have a chance to chat with her, And instead, he gets to he just is earnest, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's the right thing for them to do it. I do think it'd be funny if Charlotte answered the phone and was just like, it's Charlotte. And he's like, oh, okay, whatever. And then shows up, and then her and Charlotte and Mr. Big, Charlotte and Mr. Big just like have an affair, and it just like goes off the rails. The last episode, we're like, what the fuck?
And then
why
that's how
did you do
Charlotte
that to Harry?
And that's how Charlotte finally gets pregnant. It's her third kid.
And everyone's like, we told you the series finale is wild, right? We're
That's
like,
crazy.
Insane.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
The baby comes out wearing an oversized suit and a cigar. It's like, hey kid, I'm your mother.
Kid.
Okay, get in the limo, kid.
Hey, is there whiskey in that boob? And then he just starts breastfeeding.
Right, we'll turn around.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. That's so good.
Well, that made me think. That is the confluence of, that's what, if you could go anywhere and like go to space, that's what needs to happen, is that somehow at the end, Charlotte has Mr. Big's baby, and then Baby Big comes out, and then they drive around in the limo. He drinks from her boob. She's a famous art dealer, and you don't ever see anyone from this series ever again. Just the three of them.
Created
That's
by
the end.
Darren Star.
Exactly.
What do we? I want us to recount this. Like if we ever have Noth on the pod, and just explain all that, and just have him be like, "What?
What?"
So like we're like, never mind. It was an inside joke about you fucked Charlotte. He's like, what up? That didn't happen.
That's
Can you guys just talk about my tequila for fuck's sake?
So here's the thing, guys. It's a very smooth tequila.
There's really not much to say about Charlotte, because in the next episode they're going to do that. But it is cool that she seems.
Do what? In the next episode, they're going to do that.
Adopt.
What?
Adopt.
Okay, I thought you meant like
sorry.
She's going to have Big's child. I was like, is this happening?
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
But no, it is cool to see her be. Well, this is she didn't have much. It's going to cover in the next episode, but I will say one of the most impactful parts of the show, this episode, was with four of them doing the chat and chew. The big chat and chew was amazing. This is the first chat and chew that we've ever had that was actually truly sad, not snarky, like, oh, shut up, and then you leave. Like it was literally like us, the viewer, getting to mourn this friendship and be like, oh, this dynamic's over. Like they're not going to get to do this ever again. And I thought that was pretty. Watching Chris, I thought Kristen Davis led the way of getting to emote.
Yeah, and then her getting to see those four French ladies having a chat and chew, and her like missing that, I thought was like a great pairing to that kind of thing. The chat and mange.
What is the last thing? What is the last thing Miranda says? Go get our girl.
Go get our girl. Yeah,
I love that, and
awesome.
I love circling back to the big chat and chew. How he's like, I'm lucky just to play fourth man. Like you three are the most important. I'm lucky to be the fourth man. And like, man, if that ain't a way to get a woman back, or to get their friends on your side, I don't know what is. It's a little bit different than how Petrovsky responded to the ladies.
Yeah, and I also think, I think Harry's been like pretty solid with the gals from the beginning. But if you're a guy that goes in there and you're able to be like, before we get started, I know that I'm not your favorite, and I know I've screwed up a ton. Like for him to just own everything, I feel like he did the best that he could have done.
He did the best. It's funny because we have so many ups and downs with the characters, and we like made fun of him a decent amount, and also, but it's like, this is the best you're gonna get from Mr. Big. This is the gold standard. That deep down, like, that is part of why they're meant to be together. As much as I like Aiden, I thought he was great too. And, I don't know who my favorite for Carrie would be, but this is deep down like what is nice about Mr. Big, that he really does have this connection with her. And I don't know, a lot of people in his position, if this wasn't a television show, get married again, don't take that shot. You got to take the shot. This is it. If there are single people out there listening to this pod, you gotta take your shot, because guess what? you could be really embarrassed. Right now, he's in a position that he knows the friends are there, but he just already shot his shot, and
he's taken off his wig, and he is just being vulnerable in front of her friends.
That's right.
And are they going to stand up and cheer for him, or
he doesn't know.
Are they just going to eat their breast cancer cookies and make sweat jokes? He doesn't know.
Yeah.
He doesn't know, but he went for it.
You know who else doesn't know? We don't know. We're not sure what's going to happen. Y'all, this was a riveting conversation. I think we could have talked about this episode all night.
A long time.
I think in honor of Carrie not writing the headline for a column, that likewise we should hold off on our Cosmo rating.
I was going to say that
until we see the entire finale. This is just part un. We still have part what? What's two?
Part deux.
So why don't
so
we can choose our favorite part of the episode instead?
Okay, let's do that. 3, 2, 1. Let's just start talking at the same time.
I have mine.
You go first.
You start.
Because I know this is ultimately going to end in more. I love New York. I think I'm in the same position as Carrie Bradshaw, that it's like anytime I've been frustrated in my life, I've been like, I need to go to London. I need to move to, and like, I need to go to, like, I won't need to leave. And recently, just the past year or so, even within the pandemic, I've been like, oh, sometimes you get in your rhythm so much in New York that you actually need to shake yourself out of your routine in this amazing place rather than like escape to somewhere else. And so I think her going to Paris for the first time was my favorite part, because I can see myself in her. And then also on the other side, ultimately, it's like Paris is the fucking shit. Like Paris truly is the greatest city in the world, I think, especially when it comes to a lot of the parts that make a city. It has like the architecture, it has all these things. And it's just like, I don't know, man, like Carrie Bradshaw in Paris, like what a way to end it. What a way for them to swing for the fences and not just be like, let's make sure we keep it in New York at the corner diner, blah, blah, blah. They're just like, this is in a way, it's like Sex in the City porn. You know, it's just like fucking Carrie Bradshaw and Dior on a bed in Paris. Like, yes.
I agree with that. I'll go. My favorite things, I think, were the themes and this like weird theme going through where she brought her Carrie necklace, lost her Carrie necklace, and then at the end he gives her this other amazing diamond necklace. And then like there's all these themes that were slowly pointing at the things that weren't actually her and the things that were actually her. And it was like the necklace thing, Charlotte goes in and like her computer's still on the bed, and it's like, we never got an I couldn't help but wonder, and it's a different thing, but like that's not really her. And then you get the thing that is her, that I think we're going to find out, where you see a real Chat and Chew, because the last Chat and Chew was kind of like her being like, okay, come on everyone, like let's kind of her forcing it. Then you go and see this real Chat and Chew, and it's them, and Big is there, and it's like he is maybe her actual home. So like there's a lot of interesting thematic stuff that was going on that I thought was really, really cool.
Cory's blowing my fucking mind right now.
Did you watch the same episode? That was deep.
Yo, dog. I watched that episode in my brain.
I was gonna be like, I thought the perspiration on Samantha looked really realistic, and I sweat a lot too, and can relate to her.
But I just think like the thematics in that it was very well done, and I was hoping, and I think we really got that.
No, yeah, my favorite part was like the side eyes that all three of her friends gave Big when he first came in. And then just Miranda, go back and get our girl. Like her and Big becoming an ally. Like the friends and Big becoming an ally, uniting under the common cause of bringing Carrie home was like okay, these people are no longer fighting against each other. They're working towards the common good. And I like that.
There's actually a lot of parallels to this movie in this episode in Avengers Endgame. Like, not a joke.
Really?
Oh yeah. Have you seen Endgame?
I haven't seen Endgame.
Is that something that you read an article on, or are you just coming up with this?
I think it is.
If you look at the necklace, the shapes of the stones are much like the Infinity Gauntlet, and Petrovsky.
Petrovsky has all of the power right now. He's ready to. No, I think it is in finales in general they're able to do this, but when they do it well, you are not just telling your story. You're also keeping in mind the story of the people that have gone on the story with you.
Yeah,
and so. There's a lot of nods to what has gone on in the past. And there's also like sort of a moment that like literally her saying, "Go get our girl," was literally like all of them putting their hands in together and being like, "We will defeat the beast," which is Alexander Petrovsky. And he's even Russian. He's kind of like evil in a way. Even
that's true. He is like an evil villain. Yeah, completely.
Just be like petting a cat, being like, "Why, Carrie? I'll provide you with everything you could ever need. You could live forever."
Oh my gosh.
With all my money, with all of my art. And look, yes, but I can provide you with the world, Carrie Bradshaw. All you must do is give up all of your friends and your beloved city.
And then she's like, "That's fine. I'll fight you with my laptop." Where's my laptop? Where's my laptop?
Where's my necklace? That's where
my
I get all
necklace?
of my fashion power. Even when I went into Dior, I could feel that there was the style and the grace was draining from my very blood.
Dude, how great would it have been in Dior if when she fell, the camera just panned over and you just saw Natasha giving like a, "Hey."
she had thrown a banana peel on the ground.
Natasha did that, and she just smiles, and she has a huge gold front on her face right there.
Ding!
That'd be amazing.
Oh man!
No, we have to end this one. We love you all so very much. Thank you so much for joining us in this journey. If you haven't already listened to our podcast this far and haven't given us a rating on iTunes, then you know what? I hope you fall in Dior in Paris. I sincerely mean that.
Yeah. And please hop on we're about to record a Patreon episode right now. And those will double your listening pleasure if you enjoy the Bradshaw Boys, and it's $5 a month. And the more of those we get, the more we can give back to you. And we have some big time plans for after the series is done. So please go do that. And we love you all.
Follow us on Spotify. Rate us on iTunes. We love you all.
Love you guys. See you next week.
Later taters. Au revoir taters.
Later taters. Au revoir taters.
Au gratin taters.
The Bradshaw Boys stars Cory Cavin, Kevin James Doyle, and Jon Sieber. The show is produced by me, Jeremy Balon, and narrated by Katie Sieber. This podcast is part of the Seltzer Kings Network. Check out all their great podcasts at seltzerkings.com. You can find the boys on their socials at The Bradshaw Boys or on their website at thebradshawboys.com. And as always, if you see them in the street, tip your glass. Thanks for listening.